level to first in a book. So as a small child, I was taught to read at age 4 or 5, and I pulled down Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols and Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. Now, let's face it, I probably wasn't reading. I was just picking up a keyword here or there. But then a friend of my parents gave me a deck at around age 8, and I went, wait a second. This is reminding me of those books I used to pull down, and the images in those books, like Carl Jung talks about Man and His Symbols. Some of the same kind of symbols are on tarot cards, designed to help you uncover your subconscious feelings. Carl Jung used them with his patients.
Right. You write about how he was fascinated by tarot.
Well, he was fascinated by ritual as a small child, right? Like he would develop these things that get up and do this, and maybe we all have them, right? You put your shoes here and you do this at this particular time. That is in the end a ritual. And once Carl Jung got a little older, you can read his books and find out about him. But once he got a little older, he realized every culture, everybody has these rituals that are calming. So I really love utilizing tarot for self-help to get me out of a stuck situation. Like, I'm not kidding when I say in the back of the back of the box that it is a shrink in a box and a spiritual Xanax, right? It can be used to help us self-soothe. But just for the fun of it, we're going to talk about how you guys, if you just got your set and you haven't really read the book yet or studied it, how you can start utilizing it really quickly. Maybe for your Halloween parties with your family and your friends. Although I talk about in the book, it's not really a parlor trick, right? But what I'm saying is for Halloween, it's the perfect time to kind of test stuff out. And one of the things I say in the book, there are 78 cards, right? It's really confusing. But one of the best things you can do is simply pull a card from the deck, right? Think about yourself, or if you're pulling a card for someone else, try to feel their energy a little bit. Just kind of calm yourself down and kind of feel their energy. You pull a card and say to yourself, before you even look it up, what does this make me feel? How does this make me feel? On a visceral level, before you even go look it up, because you're probably right 9 times out of 10. What we're trying to do is get you to start trusting your intuition. Like, for example, I'll use the card in back of Pauline because it's so big and pretty. That is a card called the World, right? It's one of those major arcanas and minor arcanas in the 78 deck. There are 22 major arcanas. That's one of the majors. And I have 22 essays in the book to go along with those majors. But for example, with the World, sometimes that's about achieving your goal. If you look at the image on that, she literally has the world in her hand, right? Meaning that the World card is about achieving your goals, getting what you want. But also I have her looking up because every time you achieve a goal, it's kind of an ending, isn't it? And you can feel different ways about that ending. But I have her looking up as if to say, you have this thing in your hand. It's fabulous. Take a moment to enjoy it. But also, there's a new beginning at hand. So wait, I've lost Pauline, and it's just me now. So I'm not sure if she's
I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. But so for example, if you were to pull that World card, right, the pretty lady with the fro behind Pauline in that picture, you were to pull it for something. I'm gonna tell you one of the best ways to get started with tarot, to just not be so intimidated by it, is, how does that lady make you feel? What kind of feeling comes up for you when you look at that image? Because that's kind of why Carl Jung wrote Man and His Symbols, because these certain symbols evoke different emotions and reactions in us. And then once you read the book a little bit, I talk about a high vibe and a low vibe of a card. And by that, I mean, there's an up and a down. Like, let's take this card, for example. It is the 4 of Swords. And so all of you watching, how does it make you feel? Now I'm going to tell you the interpretation, which I stick to classic Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations of cards. But I've designed this to say the person looks a little protected, right, behind these swords. So swords are about mind. If you just learn, here's a tip for you people who want to practice for Halloween. All you have to do is learn the 4 energies. There's swords, which represent mind. There are cups, which represent water. Wands, which represent creativity and fiery energy, and pentacles, which represent basic earthly things and money. So this is swords. If you know that it's swords, you already go, okay, it's swords card. Huh. What is she doing? It looks like she's kind of meditating or taking some space for herself. I designed it for this to look like, depending on your mood, this could look like her shadow. Or maybe if you're in a little down mood, you might look at this image and go, oh, she's going to fall in that hole behind her. That's the magic to tarot cards, what you see in it. The cards themselves are not magic. Does that make any sense?
Yes. So I want to back up a little bit to say that, for example, in the background, I believe, is that a mandala you're hanging, your tapestry?
Oh, yes, yes,
okay.
Yes.
So let's just, give an overview of. So Jung believed that there are various symbols that show up in various cultures throughout the world, right? That didn't know each other. And so that lent it to himself for him to say, okay, these symbols exist in our unconscious, right? And that there are various stories that appear in various cultures. For example, the hero's journey, right? Which is the major arcana. So I want to back up to say that, and then just tie it in kind of to the overview of the cards and to the two groups, but then also to say that if you can describe the 4 suits in terms of the various earth elements, because I feel like that's kind of easier for people to understand.
Okay. So if we think about the cards, like I said, this one is a sword. And that represents the mind. But wait, let me back it up and say there are 22 major arcana cards, right? And as Pauline said, that is the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell breaks down so beautifully. Some of you may have seen his lectures on breaking down Star Wars or different, pop culture things. It's so weird. Each and every one of us is on our own hero's journey. So that is the first 22 cards. Then the rest of the deck is broken up into, as you said, earth energy. So this would be, the metal one, but it's swords, which represent mind. Then we have cups. Cups represented by water. So this is air, by the way. Swords represent air as in thoughts and things that come to us, right? Cups, water, emotions. You know how sometimes you get a little emotional and you want to just take a bath or a shower because that helps process the emotions. So that's cups. Now I'm finding all the cup cards now and all the sword cards now. I'm going to find the 2 other suits. And here is, I'm literally pulling every card, but that's telling me something. So, okay, here's wands. This card, wands, this is the wand in the card, is fire. So far we have air, water, fire.
Now look for fire. For fire, that's the phoenix, right?
That's right. I designed this with a phoenix to the flame because honestly, I feel like life is quite often like that, right? Or I'll speak of my life. I quite often rise up and then I maybe get too close to the sun or burn out. And then you got to regroup and start back over and take some baby steps in the new direction you want to go. So that's why fire, right? Fire's our friend. Man wouldn't get where he is without it. And yet fire can really burn you. So that's why each and every card has a high and low vibration. All right, hold on. I just found a Pentacles card. Pentacles are earth. So when you look on this card, she's holding this round disc. They're either called discs or pentacles. And because of the round shape can help you remember this, that represents earth energy. And usually it's talking about practical, stuff that happens in the real world, whereas the other things are in your thoughts, right? And actions and desires. This is the most practical, meaning you may pull this pentacle card when you've got to take care of work stuff or deal with money things or, just things you really in the tangible world. Okay, so
let me just, in one of your videos, you said, for the pentacles, you used mandalas. Is that correct?
Oh, the pentacles in most of the suit are pentacles. I do there's a card called the 8 of Pentacles, which represents hard work, being recognized for it, and also, of course, I'm going to see if I can find it, but also finding spiritual enlightenment in your work. So in the traditional Rider-Waite, it's just a person working working hard. And I've decided to have a person, a figure, hooded figure, painting a mandala because to me, like, you have to get real zen and real spiritual to be able to do these tiny little intricate works.
Like the sand paintings, like the sand
yeah,
paintings.
it's a hand painted. Those things, by the way, my dad was an antique dealer. He's passed, but he left me quite a few of these, kind of Tibetan Tanka wall hangings, and they're sort of used as meditation pieces. You can kind of focus in on that image. That image right there is the cover of Man and His Symbols. I don't mean that exact picture, but on the cover of the 1970s, 80s version of Man and His Symbols, it is a mandala for that exact reason.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 suits of the 4 earth, air, fire, water. And the major arcana is the hero's journey. And so Jasmine's asking, can you break down what the number and the suits mean? So in the guidebook, she breaks down, not only explains what each of the major cards means. For example, the one on the cover, right? Oh, sorry, let me put it back to me so you can see. So on the cover, that's the Fool, right?
Which is 0. It's not even 0. Number 1. It's
And then it ends with the World, which is the other card that's highlighted right there. So you explain each of the meaning of each of them, but I think that,
can I jump in and say, yeah. I think that question was great, because one of the ways I break down learning this system quickly, because I think as an actor, I know trying to memorize stuff can be difficult. Actors are usually hooked into things in an emotional way, and that is how we memorize our lines first. But I do break down the numbers in the book because, for example, let's say you have never, ever held a tarot deck in your life, right? But if I tell you that the number 4 is about foundation and change, or not change, but setting up a solid foundation for your future endeavors and security and all those things that go along with building something on a sturdy platform, then even if you've never held a deck before, and I say to you, 4s are about taking care of yourself and foundations. And then I tell you it is a sword card, right? 4 of swords, and swords are air and mind. You've already got the gist, a little bit of that card. It is about 4 of swords card must be about some kind of security and mental security. So that is actually the card. The 4 of swords represents taking a mental time out for yourself, maybe away from other people, so that you can build your foundation on something sturdy.
So she says that the count cards give her issues. So in the guidebook, you go over not only what the numbers themselves mean, but for each and every one of the cards in each suit, you explain.
Which card did she say gives her trouble?
No, it's the count cards. Oh, the court cards.
Oh, the court cards. No, this is what I want to throw out to people. Right. Court cards are so confusing to everybody. In fact, listen, I've been studying this for decades, and in fact, I am still a student of tarot, even though I wrote a book on it. It's a lifelong thing. But let me break down the court cards so much easier for you guys. There's more detail in the book about this, but for example, court cards are either sides of yourself. Do you know how sometimes, like, listen, I can be a really gregarious, outgoing person, but then I'm also very quiet at home. So that's different sides of myself, right?
Okay, so if you tell us what court cards are.
Okay, so sorry about that. She's right. I'm like, I know the system. You don't. So in the tarot, right, there's the 22 major arcanas, and the rest are the suits. There are people cards that go along with those 4 suit energies, meaning there is a king of swords, king of wands, a queen of wands, right? And there's 4 of them. There is so think of it,
cards, as we say in the as in other
the face cards, exactly. Okay. So think of it this way: if you get, for instance, the Princess of Cups, which some decks call the Page, but it is the youngest energy. Pages, I talk about this in the book, but pages usually represent some kind of maybe a message, right? But other than that, is a small. If this is the Princess of Cups, she is a small token of love. She is not the Queen of Cups or the King of Cups, who is a big opening. For example, so when we look at it in terms of sides of ourselves, right? I would say, am I being practical, or am I using my love head? Am I swept away by emotions? Or if I got wands, am I so exuberant in this thing that it's going to get me what I want, or maybe I'm not putting enough energy. The other thing court cards are, they can represent people around you, right? So this is where, by the way, whoever asked the question, I really like spreads. I know they're not as popular with like some of the YouTube crowd, but the reason I like spreads is because if the if the deck is the car, the spreads are the roadmap to getting you to understand the card. So a spread means there is a set position. I'm going to shuffle the card, shuffle, 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 think about my question, and then I'm either going to pull off the top or pull from the deck. And let's say it's a 3-card spread. Each position, each of those 3 positions represents something. So if I were to get the Princess of Cups in, let's say, the first, let's say it's in a 3-card spread, and this card is in the what you should do advice section. What action should you take? I'm going to know that this is maybe a message I might want to communicate to someone in a loving way, right? Where if it was the Princess of Swords, maybe I would know swords are mind and air. It's a little bit of needing to sometimes, depending on the cards, but speak up for myself. Okay. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's, I want to try and see, instead of explaining the cards, maybe see if we can read a little bit from the book, but I'm trying to.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So, and here's my question. And this is, I'm a layperson, right? So I'm going to ask a super ignorant question, which is, when I've had a reading before, I remember the people saying that I have to touch the deck. Like I have to put my energy on it in order for them to do a reading. Like, does the person that you're doing a reading for have to be in the room with you, or can you do it via Zoom or whatever?
Listen, let me break down some myths for you. There is no hard and fast rules. Some people can read, can pick up someone's energy from a Zoom call. Some people can't, right? But as far as you have to touch the deck, that is what worked for that particular person who is reading you.
Okay.
That's the truth. I don't have people, I only read, I read for other people for a little bit just to kind of get my street cred and prove I could, prove my knowledge was correct about this. I tend not to though now, but when I do read for, like, say, my friends, I don't have them touch the deck. Okay. You also, let me break down another myth. You can buy your own first tarot deck. There's a myth going on out there that you must be gifted. Who made up these rules is all I want to say. It's kind of the same. Like, maybe some of you people listen have stumbled on twin flame stuff, and people are like, I'm an expert and it must be done like this. And I'm like, it's not no, there's no exact rules. It's kind of what works for you. There are some things though that I go through in the book. There are interpretations. I write in my book page-long interpretations for the cards. The reason I do that is I've just noticed that the old school classic interpretations are getting lost in the new modern. This new modern movement is so exciting, right? But it's also a lot of people making up their own rules. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to kind of outline some of the basics that really help me get a structure, get a good 4 energy around tarot, because yes, we want to use our intuition to say, what does this particular card make you feel? But then it is important to go to the book and look up the interpretation so you can know what you do.
Yeah, to make it so instead of like overwhelming people. So yeah. For example, if I was doing a reading for you, I have my cards, right? I'm going to put me on video. I have my cards, but would you have to like choose a card, or would I choose a card for you? Like,
again, it is what I'm trying to say, 100% personal taste. Some readers do not like anyone else touching their deck, so you would pull a card.
Okay.
But some other people might shuffle, put the deck in front of me, have me split the deck. That's a very popular way. And then they stack it back up and take the top card.
Okay. So let's try, because I want to read a page from one, because I want to show them how accessible the
okay, great. No, you pull a card.
Okay. All right. So here we are. So we'll choose, what's that one right there? I'm looking at the camera instead of me. Okay. Oh boy. See, this scares me. It's death.
Oh. Okay. So your first impression was scary.
But I want to look up what you say.
This is,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
do want you to look up, because some of you who are watching this know tarot, maybe some don't, but Scorpio, my sign, I'm learning about astrology. I'm not that big in it. I don't know much about it, but I do know that death represents Scorpio in the tarot, and
Okay.
Scorpio is about transformation. So to
Ah.
take some of the scariness off that card, don't you feel like when you're trying to start a new project or you're letting go of something, it feels like a little death?
Yes,
Sometimes.
absolutely. You can't have an ending without a beginning. We had another, the author of, oh gosh, maybe you should talk to someone, said the same, and she's a psychologist, said the same exact thing. She
Yeah,
said
but
that, you cannot have an ending, you cannot have a beginning without an ending.
yeah, so quite often I see why you're scared maybe a little bit about death, because honestly, I was too. There's a lot of cards that freaked me out when I first started, and the image of the death card is a skeleton, right? And there's a kind of a magical element behind it that people in the know will recognize, but it's a skeleton kind of opening himself up, and inside is a human opening themselves up to their skeleton,
Yeah, that
right?
makes it a little less scary, because that kind of suggests like inner, examination and transformation. So can I
Have you
read
been
what you
through?
say?
I want to hear what you read in there, but I have a quick question for you. Have you
Yeah.
ever gone to therapy?
Yes.
So I know, me too. And I know from therapy, sometimes when you realize something about yourself or you look at a shadow side, you're ready to let go, it does feel like a loss or like a little death of yourself, because you're becoming. There's a French philosophers called Deleuze and Guattari that write about 1,000 Plateaus. That's the name of their book, from the 60s, 70s. And we are always going to a new plateau of life, right? So when we leave that other one, it is a death to hop to the next plateau.
Yeah.
Anyway, please, now you read the death thing from the book.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So it says high vibe, rebirth, release, opportunity, second chances, change, endings, transformation, as you were saying. Low vibe, change, fear, obsession, abandonment, denial, stagnation. So I don't know if it's high vibe or low vibe.
Well, here's a great thing to use your intuition for. If you were to pull that card yourself, and
Yeah.
if you're feeling pretty good in your life, and by the way, she only read the keywords. There's a whole page long
No, I
definition.
know. I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, no, I wasn't chiding you. I was saying for people, because some people don't know there's a book in there. And I'm like, no, I made a point of a page
Yeah.
long interpretation
I'll read
so
it.
that,
I'll read
and it's also applicable, by the way, for any Rider-Waite-ish deck. Like I wrote it, with my deck in mind. But the thing is, if you already have a deck you love, this book will have a page long definition that is applicable to that deck
Okay.
you already have.
So I'll just read the beginning of it, just to give people a sense, like if they were doing this for somebody, what it would sound like. So it says the death card represents a clearing away. Oops, I'll read it. I'll lift it up to read it. It represents a clearing away of the people, places, things, and ideologies that no longer serve you. Release that which is out of alignment and transform. So that's just the beginning, but it goes on. So it sounds like guidance. It sounds a little bit to me like a horoscope, but
Is it a little less scary though?
Yes.
Like when you
Yes.
read it?
Yes. I also like that the card, like this is a whole, it's very colorful here. So it's the illustrations are so beautiful. Can you tell us, while we're talking about them, about the illustrations, like working with Illustrator, how that process was?
Stephanie Singleton did a tremendous, fabulous job on these illustrations. I did want kind of an upbeat feel, because what people don't understand about tarot is it is a lot of you're kind of digging in, so it can get a little heavy sometimes when we're digging into ourselves. But what I wanted was kind of a pop art kind of feel, so that it was comfortable and not too scary, especially for the new people, but that the images are nuanced and layered enough for people who are more experienced with tarot. This is a card of staying still and needing to think. Swords again, mind. And there's a two duality here, because choices. This is a card of needing twos. By the way, I break this down in the book. Twos usually require a choice. So now, even if you haven't seen a deck yet, you know that the Two of Wands, maybe a choice, or Two of Discs is two people juggling, and you may need to make a choice about your finances. So you don't even have to have the card in your hand. And now if you learn what the numbers are and the 4 suit energies, it's only 14 things versus 78. But Stephanie Singleton, the artist, is a Canadian mixed chick. She did a tremendous job. It was an interesting process, to be 100% honest, because we were in different places, different countries, and I was working with a major publisher, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, who, you know, was fabulous. Yeah. And I would have to write up, I wrote a whole second book, novelette for Stephanie. I'd have to write up card descriptions. I would pull artwork, send it to Houghton Mifflin. Yeah. They would send it to her. She would send it back to me. We'd go through a bunch of passes. So, you know, it was an interesting process, but I think we came up with a deck with a lot of diversity
exactly.
And
that's
symbology.
What I was going to say, that it is a deck for, I mean, I don't know about other decks, but I feel like it's a deck for very much for this year, because it really does have a variety of cultures and races in it, which feels super important.
I think it is, because growing up, I mean, even listen, the original Rider-Waite Smith deck was created by a mixed Black artist, and you know, Rider, that's the name of the deck, is Rider-Waite, but Rider was the publisher. Waite came up with the book like I did, and they left her completely, you know, they left the artist, Pamela Coleman Smith, completely out of the equation. Well, so now we start to call it.
Are left out of the equation, right? They have to, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to honor Pamela Coleman Smith with this deck and keep it. I think the Rider-Waite symbology works, especially for people just learning tarot, because this way, if you understand what the cards mean, then it doesn't matter if you have a Lisa Frank deck with like a puppy dancing on a log looking at an angel baby. You'll know what it means because you actually know the meaning of the cards. But back to just the ethnicity, there's all different types in here, because somebody said to me, do you have anyone white? And I was like, yes, of course. Yeah. Like, of course I do. Plenty of all different shades of brown, some Black people, plenty of pale people in here too. I tried to
pale people are represented. That's good.
Yeah, I really tried. I couldn't include every culture, by the way. Obviously, there's just not enough cards and space, but we tried to keep it diverse. I'm not the first person to create a diverse deck, but I'm very proud of what we have created here.
Well, let me look at this card, because it struck me the 9 of discs. She's so. For example, is this typically a woman, or is this typically a woman on the 9 of discs?
In the traditional one, it's not a woman. There's a lot of men in the traditional deck. I wanted to break it up a little bit, but you tell me what you think about that card before I tell them what it is.
I want to read what you say.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like this is how people would approach it, and certainly have. So it says 9 of discs: investments, prosperity, solitude, replenishment, materialism, self-reliance, leisure, comfort, security. Low vibe: greed, loneliness, isolation, instability, insecurity, lack of money, boredom, discomfort. Wow. Now, okay, so I'll just read the first sentence and then I'll ask again. The solid foundation you've laid has created a welcome new fabulous reality. Abundance abounds. If life has been all work and no play, indulge and pamper yourself, you've earned it. So, but I still can't tell about high energy, high vibe or low vibe.
All right, listen, I can break that down really easy. The reason I have those two things in there, like she read the keywords. Keywords are very common in tarot cards, but each and every card has an up and a down. So, So per what you were talking about, on that card is a single figure. Yep. She's a very beautiful bald-headed lady, right? And there's all these fabulous flowers and abundance around her. So I say high vibe and low vibe. Traditional tarot people say upright or reverse. But the easiest, and this confuses people so much, but the easiest way to learn upright and reversals, because they're like, I don't know what the reversal is. Listen, if the upright is everything's going great, you've worked really hard, you've gotten the things you deserved, you're content, even you may not have a partner. I chose that figure, Stephanie drew her with no hair to begin with. And I said, put some hair on her maybe. And then I looked at it without hair and I went, much better, because the lady on the card is content, whether she has hair or not. Everything is cool. She's great. She's satisfied. So what is the opposite of everything I just said? You are sad, you're alone. You are not content. You do not have enough money. You are not satisfied. That's it. That's the whole, people get so confused between upright and low, high vibe and low vibe, or upright and reverse. Really think of it this way. That is the blockage. It's blocked. The energy is blocked then. If it is in reverse, It just means you're not feeling so fabulous and the energy's not flowing the way you would like it in that direction.
Something you need to work on. So Jasmine says, 9 of Discs, it feels like a woman stepping into her queendom, her power being recognized for her greatness.
Yes, Jasmine,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, like, I don't know if Jasmine has a background in tarot or not, but like I said, when you look at that card, what do you feel? That Jasmine just told us what she felt, and it's pretty much spot on with if you were to read the rest of the page-long interpretation on the card. I also break it down in the page-long interpretation. There's a general paragraph on 9 of Discs, someone who's satisfied, it's the tame things. But then I say, if you get this card in relation to business, if you get it in relation to work and love.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So that's why you have to have a question in mind.
I don't think you don't have to have a question in mind when you pull a card, but I think it's super helpful. It's only going to give you more information, because if you just pull that card, you're like, oh, I could use it as a reminder. Like if I pulled that card today, I would say, okay, I have to remember that I don't have a boyfriend, but it's okay. I'm doing just fine on my own, right? It's a reminder of that. And if I woke up today feeling sad, though, that I didn't have a boyfriend, that would be the low vibe of the card. Okay. And it would be, does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So I didn't shuffle, so perhaps that's why, because I kind of took it as so it's not truly up or down. But at any rate, I want to ask.
No, you did it just fine, by the way. Shuffle or not shuffle. Like I said, I see people pulling cards all the time on social media, and they haven't asked a question. And my feeling is that that's fine for a general sense of the day. But using spreads or asking a question is only going to get you more concise.
I see.
It'll kind of trigger the stuff you need to be thinking about in a better way. Maybe triggers the wrong way. It'll kick off the things you need to be thinking about.
Okay. And you, I forgot what I was going to say. And you explain that. I wanted to ask you about discs. Now, pentacles scare me. So,
isn't that interesting?
Not something but these are like, there's a pentacle that's like a bad pentacle, right? Which is like when it points down and it's a star, right? So just explain about pentacles. And
okay, here's what I'm going to say. Almost every card, yes, there are cards that are super heavy, right? But to me, there is no bad or good card. I'm going to talk about pentacles, but let's take one of the most scared cards in the deck, right? The devil, especially if you grew up in the church. Ooh, it's scary. But there is a high vibe to that card, which is, let's say you live in a tiny, small town somewhere and you want to be an artist. And everyone's telling you have to go to doctor school because that's what you need to do. And you're like, no, but I want to kind of break the chains of what's expected of me and maybe do something else. You might get that card in high vibe because, as I say, it's a bacchanalian good time at its highest vibe, meaning one night of fun is fun. A lot of nights of fun and you might be an addict. But now let's talk about the pentacles. Pentacles don't scare me, but I know what you mean. There's certain cards that used to really scare me. Pentacles just represent money and things we need to take care of on the earthly plane. So when you say there's a bad pentacle card, listen, the 5 of Pentacles is kind of heavy, right? It is a card of maybe lacking. And this is a card that a lot of people can relate to during 9 months into a pandemic, right? Maybe we are.
I'll show them. Yeah.
Like maybe we are lacking.
Scary, right? And Medusa, it seems.
That's actually a wand card, by the way, right there.
Okay, right. So you said 5 discs? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 5 of discs. I know there's 78 cards. They're hard to find exactly the one you're looking for when you're looking for it. But in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, okay, let me start with that. The 5 of Pentacles is somebody walking in front and they kind of look busy and wrapped up in themselves, and behind them are a couple other people maybe on the bag. But if you notice in that original Rider-Waite card, there is a church window in back of it, as if to say, right? There is salvation and there's a way out of whatever difficult situation. But the number one thing I love about the traditional Rider-Waite Pentacle card is, are you the person who has so much and you cannot give to others? Are you the person in front ignoring those in need? Are you the person in need? Are you the salvation? Are you the church in the background? That's the kind of thing I like. So with my card, basically I just tapped into everyone. Listen, a lot of people are stressed about money right now. So I just put a person at the bottom of a hole and their eye is on the prize, on the money.
Okay.
So
there it is.
That is kind of, yes, a heavier pentacle card because it talks about loss, maybe not having enough. But the upside is eye on the prize. You can climb your way out of whatever hole you were in, financial or otherwise. So yes, that is one of the heavier pentacle cards. But this is why I love doing spreads, because that card into itself, what does that really mean unless you've put it in a spread and you understand that the Five of Pentacles came up in your root consciousness? I include a bunch of spreads in my book. One is my own spread, but I'm very partial to the Mother Peace spread. That's another deck from back in the day. It's a great deck. They have a great spread. It is a modified Celtic cross. Each position means something. So if I were to get that scary Five of Pentacles card in the root consciousness, as opposed to what's really going on or the recent future, all that tells me is to look into my fear around money. That takes away some of the sting. It doesn't mean you're going to go broke or someone's going to take all your money. It's saying maybe you're blocking some money flow because there's fear and anxiety around money. Does that make sense?
Okay, right. Yes. I just want to catch you up on some of the chat. So Robin
Oh yeah, because I can't see the question. So
yeah, no, I understand. Robin says that swords scare her.
Oh, I get it. They're pointy and they're scary, Robin. I totally get that. I think swords, I'm a water sign, being a Scorpio. So swords, mind, air, thought, it all really used to scare me a little when I got them. But even a really scary card, oh, here it is. So maybe this will help you. It just means thinking clearly. And sometimes I am ruled by my emotions. So I'm not scared of sword cards now. They're just a reminder to check in. I think I'm a clever lady. Clever girl. So it just check in on my smarts and not just my feeling. But listen, this card used to terrify me in the Rider-Waite. In the traditional deck, it's a person sitting on a bed and there's three swords above them. And it looks almost like the swords could 9 swords, sorry, but they're in a bed and it looks like all these swords could kind of fall on them. And ultimately what I know about this card now is I call it the anxiety card. And I actually kind of welcome it now because it tells me the worst that's going on isn't the reality of what's happening in my life. The worst that's going on are my anxiety spinning thoughts about it. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You know how you're like, I'm not going to go clean the garage. And you make it this huge thing that you're freaked out about. And then you go clean it and it wasn't that traumatizing after all. It was just like something to be done.
Right.
That's what I think of when I get, but yeah, I think a comment, I saw one comment just pop up and say the finals next week card.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, they used to be them. Right. So,
exactly. But see, I know the cards inside and out. And I think if anyone's interested in learning them too, you'll get the same kind of piece that I do. This is, yes. Oh my God. Finals are next week. That's really scary. But you know what else it tells me? Breathe, because as long as I am prepared for those finals, as long as I've read the books I need to read and I've done my work properly, this is just anxiety about finals. You'll probably get an A.
All right. So Bill says that the 5-pointed star, back to our Pentacles discussion, 5-pointed star represents the 4 elements plus spirit at the head of the star. And a 5-pointed star downward represents material world, earth, air, fire, water over spirit, which I thought was the bad one.
Well, again, like I said, every card has a high and a low vibe. If we get an Ace of Pentacles, if you are all about money and only money and stepping on your fellow man and screwing over everyone to get that money, that's scary to me. That's kind of what Bill just said. The low vibe of a pentacle reversed would be you are not connected to spirit, because personally I subscribe to the thing that we are only as strong as our weakest fellow man, right? So if I'm stepping on people and crushing them to get my money and my goals, that's kind of low vibe money energy to me. Then it would be pointed down. I could still be rich and giggling on my pile of money, right? But it's still low vibe because it's a bit greedy and a bit selfish. I'm not saying you got to give away your money to anyone at all. What I mean, though, is at a certain point, we probably have enough. You know, there's billionaires out there. They worked hard for their billions. Some of them start to give it away because they have enough of their own. And they start to think about their fellow man. The library system in our country were started, by the magnates before we had taxes. They were like, maybe I'll start something for other people. So I think
I
with
can tell you,
Pentacles,
let me just interject there, that it wasn't just the magnets, it was also book clubs.
yeah, it was.
Yes, it was. And it was book clubs asking the magnets to lunch and saying, you know, we're not allowed to go to school. We'd like to educate ourselves, you know, and
You were 1,000% right. And that's why I'm so excited about coming on here on a book club thing, because again, I love books, right? And you could try to start a library today and people would probably call it a socialist plot, is what's unfortunate. That's true. But I love book clubs. This is how we pass our information and our knowledge to each other. So you are doing such a great service by having a book club, especially during a pandemic when people can't get together. People can't sit in a book club and discuss it. But I am like, again, if you read my book, I have a couple stories about just I lived in my imagination, you know, which was living in books when I was a child. So yes, that book club people, book lovers are all important part of this. But Bill is obviously an educated tarot person, right? Because he knows what those pentacles mean. And he's right that, like he said, it represents the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, that we talked about, which are represented by swords, wands, discs, and cups. But the last component that he said was spirit. So whatever that means to you, by the way, I'm not a particularly religious person, but I'm spiritual. But if you're particularly religious, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you tithe and you give money of yours to help, you know, your church along. So I think if let me give some advice to people who are new to cards. If they start pulling cards and they get a lot of pentacle cards, usually it means there may be some energy around money and how we view money, or we may feel overwhelmed by our daily tasks, our practical day-to-day things. Again, it is talking about things on a very real practical level, whereas the other things, cups, are emotions. That's hard to visualize, right? Or wands are energy. It's hard to visualize. Swords are mind. It's hard to visualize, but that is the one tangible, practical card, you know, and how we carry ourselves in our life.
Okay.
Is anyway.
So Bill says that he loves the visual interpretation of nines. And
yeah, I don't know if you're talking about in general or my deck, but 9 is a tricky. 9 is there's, you know, I go through the energy of each number, and again, I advise you, and I'm not the only, I haven't seen a tarot book that breaks it down, but there are numerologists, you know, if you want to study that deeper and what each number means. Oh, you were talking about the 9 of Swords.
Yeah.
I do really love what we came up with this card, because when you think about it, this is literally a mohawk of swords that she has, right? And then it's hard for you to see, but inside her brain are all these like little gremlins and things. And there's almost an epidemic of anxiety, and I get it, you know, like I say in the book, I was raised by my father, who's passed, but he was bipolar, so he calmed down once, you know, he got on the meds. Now I myself do not need meds, but I did need to retrain my brain a little, meaning I was used to indulging I indulge the negative thoughts. Now, listen, some people need meds because it can't stop the spin of their brain. Other people like me just are in a habit of chewing on the thing that didn't work, or the one negative thing someone said. So part of what I talk about in the book, and why I talk about using tarot in a therapize yourself kind of way, is because once we become aware, we can shift the behavior. Tarot's really good at helping people become aware of certain behaviors. Now, why do I focus on you compared to the person you're going to read for, etc.? Because what I know is I can't shift anyone else's behavior. I can shift my own obsessive thoughts, though. You know.
Yeah. So Robin says, and maybe some other people would agree, that The Death of Mrs. Westaway, by Ruth Ware, is what got her interested in tarot. So Ruth Ware, she writes these thrillers, right?
Yeah. Robin, I know Ruth Ware's books, actually.
So there's that.
Yeah. Also, I want to jump just quickly to because you mentioned it earlier. So I have the cards, the page-long interpretations, which are pretty classic, Rider Waite. But then I also, for the first 22, write a memoir, autobiographical memoir-y, you know, type essay to go along with it, because I figure it's going to help illuminate what the energy of the Fool card really means, if you see what it meant for in my life via a story. Plus, I get asked so many questions actually about like old movies I did, or da 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 da, or even people saying like, oh, we don't see you on camera as much. So I get very vulnerable in there, and I talk about how I had a major illness and da 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 da, and how I picked myself up after that, and frankly, I think I look better now than I even did before because I got healthy, but I had to have a big surgery, and I talk about some really joyful moments too, like booking The Craft or booking Half and Half,
Yeah,
the
so
TV
tell us,
show I
tell us
was
about
on.
the movies that you've been in. Yeah, tell us. Tell us about
Oh, well, some people, listen, I'll start with, one of the oldest ones, because I saw Chris Rock on something today, but some people might not know this. I started acting in New York when I was pretty young, but I booked a Chris Rock movie called CB4, which was like a rap parody that shot out in California. So I moved to California in the early 90s for this Chris Rock movie. And then I did a bunch of indie movies and stuff like that. And then I booked The Craft, which is a studio movie about witches. And Fruza Balk and I, who played Nancy Downs, for those of you Craft fans out there, like sometimes she's one of my really good friends. And we actually giggle to each other that like, wow, I can't believe that movie we were in helped bring this stuff to pop culture. Some of the stuff that's popular now. I think The Craft was part of the wave that kind of pushed it forward. But other than that, I've been in like Half Baked, which is a stoner movie with Dave Chappelle that's pretty darn stupid, but pretty darn funny.
Dave Chappelle. Those are some pretty amazing people to work with.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of the big guy actors, and it was super fun. I've done a lot of indie Sundance movies too, like Groove and Gregoroki's Nowhere. These are all really cool. I call the roles I played, by the way, like manic pixie black girl magic roles, because they were kind of these kooky chicks that I played. And then I was also on a TV show called Half and Half, which is on Netflix right now. The old episodes, Netflix just picked back up. So I know some people have seen that. So I still love acting so much. I just, it's really fun though to explore other sides of my art. And again, this is something that tarot and helped keep me grounded during all those heady years where people are, it's a town of smoke and mirrors, Hollywood. And if you believe your own hype, it can get a little dangerous. So I loved, doing my readings because they kind of kept me centered. Most people who know me say like, you're kind of the same, whether you're working on a big show or not. So I feel like, Hollywood didn't really change. It didn't turn me into an asshole. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you have some amazing stories in there too. I forgot which card it was, but the one about Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah, in the Emperor essay, you guys, I break down. I talk a little bit about my own dad, and what it was like as a mixed black chick growing up with a white parent, and then also Bill Cosby, because those are the Emperor energy, strong men or women. It doesn't, like, I'm very careful in the book not to kind of hang it on gender, right? Because you can be a woman and have Emperor energy. Think of like Americans in our 1845 manifest destiny. That's the Emperor, someone who's like, I put my eye on it, it's mine, I should have it. So that's like the neutral vibe. The high vibe would be someone who knows and goes for what they want, and the low vibe would be someone who uses their power to descend emperors descending a staircase rather than ascending. So I do talk about, I worked on one of my early jobs was on the Cosby Show. And I had a couple parts on the show, but I was also something called a stand-in, where I was on set a lot. And I saw a lot of things go down, and I kind of talk about my little Gen X reaction to seeing one of the women who eventually accused him of something. I was there the week it was all happening, and I saw her, and it's very complicated being a young woman back then, because it's not like now. It was I'm going to say for that time period, I remember being young and then you need a Hill verdict and thinking, as a woman, no one will listen to me, especially a Black woman. But like as a woman, no one will take me seriously. No one will listen to me. Thank goodness we have had a bit of a reckoning in this country. And I think some of those emperors, as someone said, descending an escalator, maybe have realized that they can't just throw their power around for the sake of power anymore. So I talk about those concepts in the Emperor, because the Emperor is actually a heavier card for me, even though the upright is so good. It's getting and going after what you want. But, I'm a female living in a male-centric world. So
right. Yeah,
I talk about, those complicated feelings like a lot of us women have. And I love men, by the way. I'm actually committed to trying to find a grown middle-aged man around my age to be with, but they're really cranky emperors by that age. So So we'll see if that works out for me. I may open the door up to the young kids.
Juliana says that tarot is such a beautiful art form. I love your energy, and the gentleness of your spirit comes across in the book. So thank you for writing this book and creating this deck, Rachel.
Listen, that's so kind of you to say, because, you know, when you create some art, you have to release it into the wild.
Yes, right.
And like when I've done that in a movie, it's different. You're like, yeah, like it, don't like it, whatever. I don't care. I did it. I'm already shooting something else. But when a book, like, these are my words. It's very personal to me. And then with the essays in there, it's very personal. And then designing the deck. So yes, it makes me feel so nice to hear that you got something. Maybe you're getting something out of it, or maybe you connect with the deck in a way that opens up a side of yourself. That's really all I'm hoping for with this, is to honor the people like Mary Kay Greer and Rachel Pollack, whose works I read when I was very young. And now I'm coming around to writing my own book. And so thank you very much for checking it out. You never know. You just like, everybody knows this. You just got to release the things you do into the wild and hope they come back to you someday.
And do you write about, I didn't see it in particular, but there's the drawings, the explanation of the drawings is so intricate based on what you're saying. So do you write about what the meanings of the illustrations are for the
There's
card?
a tiny bit of that in the opening paragraph of a card. I think I reference my deck and say the sword is here and this and that. But to be honest, this is about people discovering it themselves. So I don't actually, let me find a different card, but I don't actually take a card and say, oh, of course I find the one I'm on. It's not weird being on a card, you guys. Especially when you're doing like a love reading, and then the Empress. Yeah, this is me, and it's hard to tell here. But usually I have people who know me know I always wear this blue turquoise butterfly necklace. It's just me. You know, I wear it every day. It makes, yeah. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. It makes people happy, my little butterfly necklace, and I love it too. But she's got my little butterfly necklace on, and then if you have the deck and you look at closely at the face, you will see it's my face. She actually nailed my little jaw. And it's an idealized version of me, by the way, because the Empress is young and alive. And I wanted to be the High Priestess, but they wanted me to be the Empress. And I was like, you sure? Because I'm grown. Because the Empress represents, she's Mother Nature, she's fertility, she's abundance, and I am those things. But I fully, embrace that I'm a Gen X grown-up now. But I love being in my deck. It's just weird when you're doing your own reading.
That's so great. As I said to you before, these are such beautiful images. I would love to see them on mugs or something that you could have in your day.
Oh, me too. I want the sun card, which of course you don't have. I want that on a T-shirt.
Oh, I have it.
Or the sun card I designed, by the way. I found an Egyptian relief of a stone carving from thousands of years ago. There it is. And I'm not sure if you can pinch and see it, but the little rays off the sun are little hands, and because I found that sun that I like with the Egyptian artwork, there you go. Oh, perfect. Oh my God, your skills are so good with the computer. But I also put the eyes, for those of you who know tarot, I put the eyes on the card because we all know the high vibe of the sun card is everything is great. Look at the abundance and the happy colors and the sun, and you're touching things and making everything happy. The lower vibe would be the sun encourages us to shine a light on our own hidden behavior. So that's what those rays are about. And that's why I have a theme with eyeballs or eyeballs. I'm a New Yorker. I'm like eyeballs. I have a theme with the eyes in this deck because a lot of it is about looking at something truthfully, whether it's yourself or your partner, or a person you're curious about.
And that third eye, it's called the third eye, right?
It is.
It appears on our money. It's a Masonic, isn't it a Masonic symbol? Yeah. Yeah,
although, you know what, to be honest, I didn't I've looked into Mason stuff, but really I just think that the eye is it's one of those archetypes, like Jung says, we all know.
Right, exactly.
Every culture has that eye, every culture has this thing. And so again, the eye is to see. So it says, you see what's coming up, you're going to succeed. And then also that eye is there to say, hey man, when you're complaining, let me say this too. I love tarot cards for a very basic reason. I used to be a very excitable girl and get really wound up about something. And then I would call my friends and be like, listen to every thought in my head about it. And then I realized, we've all been that friend, and we all have that friend, right? But what I love tarot cards for is, let's say I get a bad news thing and I'm all wound up about it. Instead of calling someone now, I will do a reading, calm myself down, so that by the time I talk to my friend, I'm not expecting them to live in the minutia of my brain, because they have their own brain full of their own stuff. So now when I talk to them, it's in a more educated, concise way. And I'm not just repeating, like, can you believe this person did this? I'm actually taking it further. And so that's where a tarot practice is really helpful. And also, this is the card 8 of Wands, of energy coming in, energy coming out. Wands are fiery life force energy, right? And creation ideas. This is to say, you can use these tarot cards because once you sort of understand yourself a little better, it unlocks that intuition that we all have. We all have intuition. So.
And Gabrielle says, I love that you share your experience growing up mixed. As a mixed chick myself, I identified with it a lot. So it's really great that you can.
Oh, Gabrielle, thank you again. Thank you for saying that, because I did actually include, like, if you read the Empress essay, there's a sentence in there that's really wacky about something my talent said to me. But I wanted to be vulnerable and kind of bear some of these things, because I thought I'm not the only person who's dealt with this, being a mixed Black chick, or I'm not the only person who has done something. I'm shameful of my behavior in the Devil essay, right? I am not the only person who's fallen and stumbled and has to pick back up. I'm also not the only person who's soared super high and attained a lot of the things I want, because those stories are in there too. But what I tried to do is be like, listen, all the things you think are so perfect about everybody's on their own hero's journey. Because a lot of people would say to me, you're to the manner born, Rachel. You must have been from a very rich or wealthy family or spoiled. And I'm like, I came out of foster care the first 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and I also thought, as a Gen Xer, my perspective as a this age Black woman, may or may not be interesting to someone younger, but I hope that it is, because I think you're going to see similarities to the experience I went through, and hopefully some things that have changed for you.
So we're at 8 o'clock, but I just want to ask one more question, but also say, it's like it would be a really interesting but unconventional book club choice. But here's my idea, which is, if you chose, your deck and guidebook and say The Power of Myth, like the illustrated one by Joseph Campbell, and you compared like the symbols. I mean, Joseph Campbell, when you watch that video on PBS, he talks about Star Wars as the hero's journey, right? And so then I bet you'll see each of these myths in so many stories and structures, and the symbols.
A lot of movies.
I think it would enrich people's reading experience going forward. So just a thought.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I love that you are familiar with Joseph Campbell and the way he breaks down myths, because if you want it in a pop culture way, he breaks down Star Wars. But also in my research, I had a website where someone broke down Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure with the hero's journey using tarot cards, and it was spot on. So I think what we're saying is, if you look into that, and then, like Pauline said, that the myth book is tremendous to kind of fill it in. And I do think I had a friend who did this for their book club. Everyone got a copy, and they said it was super fun and also edifying.
Yeah. So Ethan says, I'm a Gen Zer figuring it all out myself. Really appreciate the insight.
Ethan, I'm a Gen Xer still figuring. That's what I want to point out. Like, I'm so appreciating people for responding, to this in the book, but I'm not, like I've said before, I'm not setting myself up as a guru or promoting toxic positivity. I'm literally someone who's like, hey man, I'm just like you. I'm trying to figure everything out too. And what was really helpful? This. So I'm going to write a book on it because I love books, and it was, a natural progression for me to write a book, actually. And I'm going to work on a fiction book too, by the way, and scripts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Maeve says, I think what makes tarot such an amazing exercise is that whatever card is pulled, my experience has been that they are all relevant at the time. And then Bill says, yes, Joseph Campbell, I read The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Yeah,
the first statement was so correct, though, because, like, let's say you're not even asking. If I ask, let's say love's on my mind today, right? Or lack. So let's say if I ask about love and I were to pull this card.
Mm.
She's a lot more fiery and looking a little more sexy than I feel right now. Or like she's attracting what I'm seeing in this image today. And I created these as that's a woman who's attracting more attention than I am from the opposite sex right now. But so again, my lesson in this would be, well, Rachel, you are kind of an exuberant person, but you're kind of cerebral in your head. And sometimes you forget to flirt, right? Like, I don't know if anyone else is like me. Like, I don't want to flirt with a guy until I know that he's really smart and interesting and all these things. So I can kind of suppress some of my own fiery energy. And I may be cutting off some possible guys out there because they think I'm not interested. Does that, I think somebody just popped up and said
yes,
same.
Julana,
So.
the same. Exactly.
Yeah. So that card, by the way, if I got this, this is why I love tarot. It keeps me from going, it's not fair that I don't have a boyfriend in the pandemic, because that's a victim space to me, at least. It's okay to feel that way, by the way. We've all felt that way. Feel your feelings. But what I'm saying is, once I got out of that and got bored of that sentiment, I have to get real with myself and going, well, Rachel, when's the last time you looked on that very exclusive dating app that you're on that you never use? How often are you putting out your energy to someone else? So it makes me think of active things I can do. Now, some of you on here are familiar with tarot, and you do know you can take it further, right? And kind of learn to divine. But I still stand by with this book, as Carl Jung says, the best way to predict the future is to understand how the present evolved from the past. So tarot's really good at helping you see where the pattern got set in. And then I just want to throw out an exercise. I'm not sure if I put this in the book, but for a lot of people, when people say, I'm scared of the swords, or I'm fearful of the whatever suit or particular card, what an exercise I'd love to recommend to people is I want you to like get in your comfortable space, light a candle, do your thing, whatever it is, take a bath, whatever. Then I want you to think about your life. Almost like watch it like it's a little movie on a screen across the room. I don't want you to relive stuff. What I'm saying is watch it like a small movie square on a screen over there, and think about your age at your life at 7 years old, 14 years old, 21. We're talking about cycles of 7, right? And I want you to think about how fear affected you at 7 years old, 14 years old, 21 years old. For example, that's usually when our patterns get set in. So sometimes just realizing, oh, I stopped doing this because this thing, you're right, that guy said this thing. And then it almost releases us, from that self-imposed prison, and can show you some patterns of your life. So I hope some of you will try that exercise.
Interesting. Also, isn't it every 7 years that our cells replace themselves?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so interesting about life is like, in the end, there's somebody out there roaming around with interacting with the old version of you, right? Because that's what's stuck in their memory. But you're here. We constantly evolve. And I think that's all I'm trying to say with this book is like, I am always trying to better myself and forgive myself for my stumbles, because if we don't release the shame or forgive ourselves, then we can't get past it, and it's hard to move forward. I think releasing shame, and again, taking accountability, responsibility, but sometimes it's just as simple as like, I'm releasing this pain I have about this. And that's why I love tarot, by the way, in tandem with therapy. I'm always going to say that a good therapist goes a long way to helping us sort out what's going on with ourselves.
Well, I just want to end by asking one question, which is there a card that you think best represents you? Well, I guess you showed it to us, did you not?
What's funny is I was doing a live with my friend Cree Summer, and she said, which card represents you? And then she said, I think I know your card. She assumed I was going to pull the High Priestess, right? Because that is kind of how I see myself. And the High Priestess has learned to be quiet, which was a big lesson in my life. I don't mean I'm a Scorpio, I can keep a secret, but I mean like I'm just an exuberant person, and she knows when to just shut up and listen. But I'm not the High Priestess now, because I am hit a certain point, and I realize, and I write about this in the book, like there are some experiences you can only have in concert with another person. So I have always put my career or work ahead of that. I didn't put partnerships as big. So personally, I feel like I'll go with her. She's the queen of wands. So it's the more mature, energy of the wand energy. But I feel like it's time to kind of stop hiding. Listen, Pauline, I mean, Pauline's younger than me, but ultimately some of the suppression of my own sexuality, and I'm not a prude or anything like that. I'm just saying I'm a little Victorian, because when I was in school, all I ever heard was, people who look like me are super loose and da 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 da. This is what people were saying about Black people in the 80s. So I kind of was like, I'm going to be different, and I'm not going to do that. So what I'm saying is now I'm stripping away some of the stuff I layered on myself, and exploring my own fun. And listen, I'm not saying I haven't explored my sexuality. I've had some lovely lovers and it's been fabulous. But unless I'm already like in love, I'm just, I can put a little bit of, I can be a little avoidant. That's my point. I can be avoidant in dynamics. So now I'm very dedicated to throwing that pattern away. And I see Jasmine's comment, oh my God, yes, Black girl. So you know what I'm saying? There were I was told by a lot of people, a lot of things about myself, or what they thought a Black girl is.
Let me read what she said. Right. So she said, oh my God, yes, Black girls went through a lot, heard that a lot. It's so damaging.
Well, and that's why I write some of the essays, so that hopefully you're younger, Jasmine, and you're not going through that. But if there's an inkling that makes you understand your mom better, or an inkling of what you are going through, and you get that out of the essay, and then you use the cards to kind of help shift that energy, that's the purpose. That was my purpose in writing the book.
Oh, good. And Gabrielle said, yes, so true. So, wow. Well, what an amazing evening. And we talked about so many important things. I mean, it's really, you've led us into worlds. So thank you so much, Rachel.
No, listen, thank you so much for having me on and taking the time to actually talk about the book. Because a lot of people, it's a box set and they keep thinking it's just a deck. And I'm like, I wrote a whole book, people.
Yes, no, definitely.
It was really hard to write this book. I mean, and I just want to throw out there, if you guys are looking for me on social media, I'm most active, I'm going to say, on Instagram in my stories, to be honest. So check out my stories, but I'm on Instagram at True Rachel True. And I'm on Twitter at Rachel True. Those are kind of the two places you can catch me. If you have any questions about the book or the deck, I do a few lives every so often and welcome questions, or whatever you have to say. But I just want to thank Book Movement and Pauline so much for this, because you had to look through the book. You had to expend some energy. And I am so grateful that you took the time, because you're obviously not a tarot practitioner, but hopefully I've showed you maybe that it's not as scary or weird as it might be perceived.
No, it's wonderful to learn about. I found it so fascinating. I mean, it's a little bit art history. It's like it's seeing archetypes in literature. It's kind of the history of literature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I take it from a different place, but it's also interesting to learn about, because you did make it super accessible in the book. So it's really, I just want to read you what Juliana wrote. I love the deck in the book. The tarot got me through the hardest time in my life. I've been studying tarot for many years, but this deck and book re-sparked my passion. Thank you for this.
Oh, good. Yeah. By the way, I can relate to what she's saying, because there are times in my life where I'm a bit of a hermit on my own. So times I don't mind being alone, but you find yourself isolated, and then you can do a reading and you can kind of feel a little less alone because you have more comfort with yourself. Anyway.
And Bill says, Pauline, you'll eventually see the cards that you're scared of are actually the biggest growth cards for you. Well, isn't that true of life, right? So that's
you know what? He's 1,000% right. I'm not saying those cards particularly for Pauline, but I know for me, like the 9 of Swords card was so scary to me when I was younger. And now I get, it's just a reminder not to be anxious. Or the High Priestess was I thought of her as a desexualized crone. And which is so wrong. I'm saying when I first, was starting. Now I understand that just because I'm mature now, I still really like myself and feel kind of sexy and fun and attractive. So I have sort of taken off some of the fear of the High Priestess myself, and embracing all those. They're all just sides of ourselves.
Yes, right.
That's the truth.
That's one of your lessons. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Rachel.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And so I want to select, you don't have to stay here for this, Rachel, but I'm going to select our 5 winners.
Okay, great. Wait, I'm going to sign off because I have to go do something else. But thank you so much. And I hope you winners will hit me up on Instagram and let me know what you think of the book.
Yes, good. All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. You were a gem. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. And thanks. All right. So everybody who is still here, thank you for coming. I know it was such an unusual choice, right? So I thank you for coming, and I hope it was fun and you learned something, because I think that there was a lot to learn. So I hope that we that we got into it for you. So if you would like to win a deck, please stick around. And if you don't, you can say, good night. And I will pick from, I'll go to our gallery view and pick from the people that I see. I didn't do the Halloween costume because I thought I really wanted to keep the focus on the book, but I feel like it is Halloween season. So it was kind of like a really perfect. Okay, Heather, would you like a deck? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. All right, I'm writing down your names as I go along because I don't want to, Heather. All right, so email me or chat me your address, okay? And, okay, there you go. And let me go to the other screen here. Diane Shadowski, if you'd like a deck, I'm going to write your name down. And we've got 5. Let's see here. Rose Doyle. Yeah? Okay, I'm going to write you down. Rose Doyle. And let's see here. Okay, Gloria Liff. Yeah? Okay. Gloria Liff. And some of you don't have profile names. That's not very helpful. Doris Royals. Would you like a deck? Okay, good. All right. So each of you, Doris Royals. Okay, so those are our 5. So email me at Pauline@bookmovement or info@bookmovement.com. I'm putting it in the chat now. Your mailing address, so the publisher can send you a deck. Oops, I sent it to just you, Heather. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Everyone. info@bookmovement.com. Okay. And so my thought was like, maybe if you're going to have like a Zoom Halloween party or some sort of thing, it would be an interesting thing to keep us do something new as we're really approaching some hard times, I think, here. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's great to see your faces, and I hope you enjoyed tonight. And don't forget, winners, don't forget to email me, okay? And we have one next Tuesday, but I'm going to send out, I sent out the invite already, so you probably have already RSVP'd, but it'll be on our Facebook page. And then I have an amazing one coming in November with like 10 best-selling authors that are coming at the same time. So it's going to be amazing. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.